And welcome back to Jeff Koinange, live at the Intercontinental Hotel. Goodness gracious me, when Professor Makau Mutua shows up, you know the tweets are coming in, Willie. I can't hear you, man.
Thick and fast.
Thick and fast, he says. Okay. They are coming in. Let me just read a few, Prof,
yes,
because,
yes.
whoa. A guy called Mvaite says, why does this man, Makau Mutua, see fault in the most popular president in Africa? UK, Uhuru Kenyatta, voted recently as the most popular president in Africa. Couple more. Gerald Leparillo says, ask Makau Mutua about his persistent attacks on Jubilee government. Is he a cord mole on the payroll? One more. Ike Kenneth says, tell Makau Mutua that Uhuru Kenyatta is the president of Kenya. ICC cases are over.
Well, I mean, it's a free country, and there's democracy. People can say whatever they want to say. I respect their opinions, but I was shocked though when I saw university students give Mr. Kenyatta, a prize.
Why were you shocked? Why were you shocked?
Well, in my day, as a student, that would have been actionable treason. We would have rounded those people up and tied them up and locked them up in a room.
Come on, Prof, come on.
No, I'm just kidding. But it is not really the job of students to decide, on these questions. In any case, I never heard of the organization that supposedly gave him this award. It could be fake for all I know. It could be a fake organization. Never heard of it.
So even you're disputing when people vote this man the most popular president in Africa, you're disputing that? Well,
let's have transparency. I mean, who heads this organization? How many members does it have? Who conducted the elections? Who else was voted for? Why is it necessary to vote for, the best leader in Africa? What purpose does that serve? The whole thing raises more questions than it answers.
Okay, what about the guy asking about whether you're a cord mole?
Well, I mean, like I said, it's a free country. The person should know that I have a right to belong to any political party, but for his information, he should know that I do not belong to any political party in this country. I do not.
Do not?
I do not.
And despite your articles, people would argue that some of your articles you seem to lean towards cord.
I have always
praise former Prime Minister Raila Odinga to no end.
I have differed with Mr. Odinga on any number of issues, including his position on Somalia. I've differed with him, on that question. I have, in fact, in the past, argued that some of his political alliances, are not appropriate. At one point, as you know, he was in bed with Mr. Ruto. So there are some things that I don't. Today, in fact, he's in bed with Mr. Wetangula, whom I don't think deserves to be anywhere near the opposition. So to say that I adore Mr. Odinga or that I always support him is in fact incorrect. There's no empirical evidence to show that.
Yeah, and if Senator Wetangula ends up as the running mate of former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, what are you going to say about that?
It will be a disaster for this country.
Why is that?
First of all, let me simply say that individuals who have no history in the struggle for democracy in this country should not purport to belong to the opposition. Mr. Wetangula is one of those individuals. Mr. Wetangula is as KANU as they come. I am shocked that he found some comfort and a position in CORD. I would never, have imagined that such a person would become a part of the opposition. Yeah.
If you were to speak to the former Prime Minister and give him some advice, would you tell him to run in 2017? Would you encourage him?
I think he has to run in 2017.
Why?
Because I still believe, and I've said this before, that Mr. Odinga is the best president that this country has never had.
You said that?
I've said that. I've said that before, and I'll say it again. Just look at the man's history. Look at the kinds of issues and policies that that he supports, both internally and but also externally. It is true that he's not a perfect individual, but tell me, look at the political landscape and show me another political leader who can hold a candle to Mr. Odinga's credentials as a progressive leader. Show me someone who can really contest that terrain with him among the political class. Now, there are individuals in this country who are not politicians, whom I would argue, would make wonderful presidents. But I think if you are choosing among the existing current political leadership, I think it's head and shoulders above everyone.
You're saying President Kenyatta couldn't hold a candle to the former Prime Minister?
Mr. Kenyatta has no history in the struggle. Mr. Kenyatta has harvested where he never planted. I don't know whether you know this, Jeff, but if you don't, I'll let you know this. I have been a part of the struggle for change and democracy in this country ever since I was a kid. I was exiled for fighting for democracy in this country. I have been a part of a group of individuals who incubated the civil society movement in human rights in this country. I have never seen Mr. Kenyatta in any of those spaces.
And because
if anything, Mr. Kenyatta was always on the wrong side of history during those struggles. So I mean, and I think that, in fact, with respect to the new constitution in 2010, Mr. Kenyatta was on the wrong side until the very last minute when he knew that that constitution was going to pass. And so therefore he switched sides and joined, the Yes campaign.
And because he wasn't part of the struggle, you don't think he deserves to be president?
I don't think that the presidency it should be a legacy. Just because your name is Kenyatta does not mean that you should inherit the presidency. This is not a dynasty. People must earn the right to become president.
He earned the right by 6.1 million votes. Let's face 6.1 million.
But Jeff,
first round.
But Jeff, we have told you already that we believe, and I believe very strongly, that that election was compromised.
Compromised, but the Supreme Court ruled otherwise, Prof. Come on, let's face it.
Yeah, but
why can't we move on?
No.
And then, by the way, 2017 is around the corner. It doesn't look like he can be beaten.
2017, is around the corner. We'll see what happens. The problem in this country, Jeff, is that money seems to talk louder, than integrity. And that is why, for example, you see that this fight on corruption that Mr. Kenyatta himself initiated in this latest round. That's why you see that fight has been compromised. All these guys are going to walk because money talks in this country. If you have money, you can buy an election. If you have money, you can get away with murder. This is what we have seen.
Would it have been different had it been a court administration?
I think that if you look at some of the individuals who are behind the core political party itself, you will see that there are many people within that political party who have a history of the struggle in this country, of fighting for human rights, of fighting for democracy, of fighting for change, than were in Jubilee. And so I have to say, yes, I believe that it would have been a much better regime, but not only that, we would not have been ruled by individuals who were accused of crimes against humanity. Doesn't that shock your conscience, Jeff?
No, because the case seemed to have been political, and one case already has been thrown out, withdrawn. So, at the end of the day, that was political.
But Jeff, why do you say that the case was political? I mean, did those people, the 1,400 people, kill themselves? Did the 600,000 people displace themselves?
No.
Those people never displaced themselves. And don't forget, Jeff, that the people who were taken to The Hague were fingered not by Ocampo, not by Bensouda. Those people were identified by a commission of inquiry that was formed by the government of Kenya.
But
my information, and which information I think you have,
yes,
is that much of that dossier was compiled by people who were in State House.
True, but when the Waki list came out, there was 20 individuals, maybe even more, at least 20. It narrowed down to 6. Conveniently, 3 from PNU, 3 from ODM. Very conveniently. Doesn't that raise a red flag?
But Jeff, lawyers will understand that there is something called prosecutorial discretion. Prosecutors can decide who they are going to indict and who they are going to try based upon a number of factors, perhaps probability of conviction, perhaps the ability to get evidence against particular individuals, perhaps the resources available to them, and so on and so forth. The fact that you indict 5 people and don't indict 5 others does not mean that you should not try the 5 that you have indicted. It doesn't mean that.
I once asked Luis Moreno Ocampo, former
Yes.
chief prosecutor, I once asked him this question at The Hague.
Yes.
I said, Chief prosecutor, right crime, wrong suspects. And I asked him that a couple of times. Right crime, wrong suspects.
We are going by a report that was produced by the Wagi Commission. We are going by that report. If people insist that there are others who are in that report whose names were not forwarded to Mr. Ocampo, who are not indicted, that's a fair question. That's a fair question. I agree with that. But that does not mean that those who are identified and indicted by Mr. Ocampo should not have been indicted. Yeah.
Sitting on the president,
Yes.
President Kenyatta,
Yes.
you had once said that President Barack Obama
Yes.
would never come to Kenya as long as President Kenyatta was in office.
I think-
President Barack Obama is coming next week.
Well, I think, Jeff, you are putting words into my mouth. What I had said, and I will correct you.
Go on.
What I had said was that Mr. Obama, President Obama, Barack Obama,
Oh, now you call him president.
President Obama, would not come to Kenya as long as Mr. Kenyatta was facing the charges at the International Criminal Court. That's what I said. As long as he was facing charges at the ICC, those charges have now been dropped or withdrawn, and therefore Mr. Obama can, in essence, return home. Because after all, his father was a Kenyan.
Absolutely.
But let me say this here. I'll be very shocked and surprised if while President Obama is in Kenya, that he crosses paths with Mr. Ruto.
You'll be surprised.
I'll be very shocked, and I think it would be highly inappropriate for the President of the United States to shake hands with an individual who is facing charges at the ICC.
What if Deputy President Ruto goes and greets him at the airport? What if he's the welcoming committee?
I think it would be a fatal error by the Kenyan government to send an indicted individual for crimes against humanity to meet the President of the United States.
Okay, overall, is it a big
That would be
deal?
a diplomatic error of historic proportions.
You think so?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Other than that, you think it's a big deal, him being here?
I think it's largely symbolic. I'm one of those individuals who has been critical of Mr. Obama for, I think, not visiting this continent, the continent of his father's birth, as often as he should have. I think there was an opportunity here by Mr. Obama to change, American foreign policy towards Africa, which policy I think, if you look at it from top to bottom, has been informed largely by racist, preconceptions about Africa. So I think it's better late than never, and I think it's good that he's coming. I think he should have come more often. I think of all the places that he should have come to, it is this country. So I'm glad he's coming here. Very glad.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's not too little, too late.
It is not too little, too late. I don't think that Kenya has ever been visited by a sitting American president.
No, not since 1912.
Not since 1912.
And that was Roosevelt.
Yeah, so this is a big deal. As you know, the president has relatives
Correct, in Kogelo.
both in Nairobi, but also in Nyanza. So it'll be a wonderful thing to see him go to Nyanza to visit, the place where his father came from.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Prof, we're going to take a break, come back. I see my phone is ringing off the hook. The tweets are just coming in too thick, too fast.
Okay.
We're going to read a couple of tweets, come back, and also talk about the way forward. How you see this place. I mean, look, it looks like everybody is congregating around Kenya.
Yes.
Kenya is the blue-eyed boy of the West, but there are still issues. There's insecurity, big issue. That corruption you talked about, big issue. And of course, negative ethnicity.
I think Kenya should not kid itself that it's a blue-eyed boy of the West.
We're not?
Why would Kenya be the blue-eyed boy of the West?
Microsoft, GE, everybody's in town. The Chinese are here.
But those are business people. They're trying to make money. That doesn't mean you're blue-eyed. They're trying to get your money.
Making some too while we're at it.
Perhaps we'll see. Perhaps we'll see.
Professor Makau Mutua, distinguished professor and dean of the State University of New York School of Law in Buffalo, New York. He's on sabbatical for a year. He's in town for a little while. He's on the bench as we speak. Jeff Koinange Live takes another break. We'll be back. Plenty more in a moment.